would you say if I were to ask you to describe yourself? You may pause for a moment, and ah, maybe string together a sentence and then say, I've got nothing. Or perhaps you may highlight those spots on your face, or your double chin, or fixate on that belly roll that you can't seem to get rid of. These are common responses for a physical description of ourselves. We hate describing ourselves. It's human nature, especially for teenagers. We're in a society where the industry teaches us to be discontented with our body. In a world where the only acceptable body shape is one with a tiny waist, curves and muscles in all the right places, and a clear face. Now imagine I were to ask you to describe your internal self, your personality, your characteristics and your mindset. There may be a multitude of responses to this question, but I doubt you'll be boasting about your brilliance and will instead start highlighting your weaknesses first. Again, this is a common response. It's almost as if we're expected to put ourselves down before we consider everything that makes us incredible. At the beginning of secondary school, I had a huge personality. I talked far too much, I was confident in who I was, and I couldn't care less about how others perceived me. I spoke up about issues that I cared about, and I did my best to leave my mark on the world. But a few years into high school, I started to become more aware of societal pressures. Pressures and expectations not only around my physical appearance, but also about my actions and what I was doing. Do I put my hand up too much in class? Am I being a tryhard? I noticed this increased awareness of expectations from many external pressures. Pressures from social media to be living the perfect life and documenting the right thing all the time. And within this, the pressures of the industry. It was the beauty, fashion and lifestyle industry who were constantly making me aware that my clothes were 3 seasons out of date in their 52 micro seasons, adding to my growing insecurities. And the industry was winning because I was buying into their micro seasons and trends, all just to fit in. This continuous cycle of self-doubt and attempts at self-improvement eventually saw me hospitalised with severe mental and physical health issues. I was angry, upset and most of all confused when everyone, my parents and doctors, were telling me that I was wrong in my actions, when all I'd been trying to do was be right. I was trying to fit in, to shy away from my extroverted personality and be like everyone else, trendy, popular, and overall submissive to society. What was so wrong with that? Looking back now, after many conversations with other young people my age, I realised that these are common feelings that teenagers feel at some point in their life. Even though at the time you feel like you're living up to that person's idea of a perfect life, they too are striving towards another idea of perfection, and it's an impossible standard to achieve. After a challenging yet rewarding recovery, I spent time trying to reclaim the person who I once was. But I found I was still holding back from truly embracing me. After around a year or so, I came across Youth Parliament. It's a platform for young people to be elected to represent other young people in their area and campaign on views they're passionate about. As I looked into this idea, it intrigued me more and more, until I discovered that I would have to campaign in my own school, among others in the city, in order to be elected. At the time, I thought I could never do that. Everyone would judge me and say I was weird and nerdy. No, it seemed that this wasn't for me after all. But I came back to the idea, and I sat down with my thoughts and tried to realise what was really stopping me from doing this. I wanted to make change, I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to contribute something more than just my school council. I wanted, and I still want, my voice to be heard. So if I want my voice to be heard so badly, why do I not want it to be heard by people that I know? It was because I was scared of my peers' opinion of me. Whether they thought what I was doing was cool or not, or whether it was the right thing to do. So in this moment of sitting down with my thoughts, I suddenly understood the shallowness of my reasoning, so tried to think about what I really wanted to do. What would make me, Georgia, happy, not my societal standard meeting alter ego? and I knew that I wanted to make change. So I campaigned, I was elected, and I became a youth MP. Being a youth MP has led me to so many incredible opportunities that would have just passed me by if I'd let that self-doubt and self-consciousness take over me. I probably wouldn't have been able to give this talk today if I'd let that take over. So you may be thinking, that's all very well, but I don't want to become a youth MP, or an MP for that matter, so what has this got to do with me? Well, the short answer is everything. Your self-doubt is stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve in your life. You'll live your life just floating along, not being able to truly embrace every or any opportunity for fear of judgment or dislike from other people. And spoiler alert, not everyone's going to always like you. And in terms of the wider society, your self-doubt is fueling into a system, into an industry that profits from our insecurities, where our confidence levels are determined by the clothing model in the all-too-expensive shop on the high street. I remember once in year 8, we had a surprise non-uniform day, and I went all the way into town after school just to buy a new top to wear because I was insecure of the clothes I already owned at home. And in that moment, the industry won. I felt insecure, so I went and spent more money to buy more clothes, adding to my already full wardrobe at home. Your self-doubt is also stopping you from speaking out against issues in society that concern you, whether this be in a society, in school, or in a workplace. Do you really think that if women hadn't broken out of their stereotypes in society in the 19th and 20th century, that women would be having the vote today? So what can you start doing to break down your self-doubt? To begin with, you must identify what parts of yourself you're holding back. Sit down with your thoughts, maybe even write down what parts of yourself you're not embracing. Next, you're going to want to start thinking about where in life you can put these feelings that you've been holding back into play. You may be able to pinpoint a specific moment where you feel your doubt holding yourself back. Maybe it was last week in that debate that was really interesting, you wanted to contribute, but you were fear of your opinion being mocked, so you didn't say anything. Or perhaps it's every day in maths class, when you sit pretending to be bored because you've been led to believe your entire life that surely it can't be right to like maths because it's nerdy, like being nerdy is a bad thing. Once you know how to start implementing this in your life, next time you come to that situation, you need to start thinking about what you'll do differently. It's okay if this scares you. I get scared every time I see someone that I know has seen some of the activism that I've been doing, or simply rolls their eyes as I go to answer yet another question in class. You may not be able to physically bring yourself to speak out or act differently, but that's okay. Now you've identified the cause and you know how to act differently, something that always helps me is to try and identify the root of your self-doubt. Why is it that you're doubting yourself? Say it out loud. Say it multiple times. I'm serious, actually say it. After you say it a few times, you might start to realise how superficial and nonsensical your reasoning really is. For me, my self-doubt stemmed from popularity, whatever that is anyway. Whether or not I was popular and what the popular people would think of me. After I dismantled the idea of popularity in my head, I had an epiphany that it was all just an illusion anyway. Now you know how to act differently. Go out there and let your colours fly. Go speak up at that council meeting. Go stick your hand up in that class. And soon, by making these small day-to-day changes, you'll be able to feel confident enough to speak up in society. To speak out against injustice. To speak out against the system. To speak out against the exploitation of our planet, or whatever it is that matters to you. Making a change must come from you. However, you cannot make change if you're spending all your time trying to change yourself.